So welcome back to room 1-on-1 from the Homeboys. Celtic have Champions League football on their minds, and with Lazio returning to Glasgow next Wednesday, it's time to have a look at the Italian giants. So to help us get to know our Roman rivals, I am delighted to welcome a new guest to the pod, Vittorio Campanile, co-host of the Lazio Lounge podcast, and if I'm right, lifelong Lazio fan to the show. Vittorio, how do I find you?
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about Lazio. So thanks for having me.
Just a wee heads up that Vittorio, who in our contacts before tonight had been showing me the Celtic jersey he'd purchased, and he'd showed me one, and he was telling me about his previous. But he started this podcast with a Rangers top on, so I don't know how this is going to go. We've got a wido here.
By the way, I ordered the shirt you have, so I hope it arrives.
What a classic, mate! An absolute classic.
Right. Anniversary, right?
Well, they say it's that. It's. I think it's just a money grab by Adidas, to be honest. But when a jersey's this nice, you can't really moan about it. Vittorio, it's tradition on the show for new guests to tell us a wee bit about themselves. So who is Vittorio, and why do you support Lazio?
Why do I support Lazio? Well, because I'm born and raised in Rome. I travel Europe in particular, but I've been born and raised in Rome. My dad was a Lazio fan, and so I started supporting Lazio. Back in the days, on Saturday morning, my dad was going to watch Lazio training, and he was bringing me to there. So I was playing foot outside the pitch, and he was watching Lazio playing. So I grew up as a Lazio fan, and then I went into the sport business. I've been a sport journalist and keep in touch with Lazio. Living in the sport journalist world, you get in touch with a lot of things, and I think Lazio has an incredible history. So it's one of the oldest clubs in Italy, definitely the oldest in the south of Italy, central south of Italy. So it has an incredible history. And finally we are back in the Champions League after a very good season last year. So we'll try to do the best.
Nice one. Two good reasons to support Lazio. You were born there, and your dad supported them. I'm in with both of them. Right, again, another tradition on the show, Vittorio, is to have a wee brief look back at last season, basically how we ended up in this situation where we are. So, Lazio, the season started last season with Maurizio Sarri in charge, the former Chelsea manager, in place for his second season after replacing Simone Inzaghi. So, league-wise, a very, very respectable season. From the 38 games played, the team won 22, drew 8 and only lost 8, scoring 60 goals, conceding 30, a goal difference of plus 30, 74 points on board, 16 points below eventual champions Napoli, and 2 ahead of Inter de Milan in third, meant that second place finish was the best finish Lazio have had since winning the league in 2000. Some massive results in that time. None more so than winning the Derby della Capitale twice with 2 1-0 wins. And you also had a great 4-0 win over AC Milan, a 1-0 defeat of Napoli and Naples, and a satisfying 3-1 win over then champions Inter in Rome. The Coppa Italia run was a short one. A 1-0 win over Bologna in January meant in the quarterfinals in early February, Lazio visited Turin and Juventus and depart the tournament with a 1-0 defeat. Europe-wise, interesting. Lazio had qualified for the group stage of the Europa League after their previous season's 5th place finish, and a group with Feyenoord, Midtjylland and Sturm Graz. 2 wins, 2 defeats, 2 draws from each team meant that goal difference played its part, and with -2, Lazio's 8 points would see them finish in 3rd, drop into Europa Conference League. Drawn with Cluj, a 1-0 aggregate win took them through to quarterfinals, but 2-1 defeats to Dutch side AZ saw them exit the tournament. So let's talk about how it went league-wise. Napoli pretty much had it tied up early doors. So to put the form in and to come in second place must have been really, really pleasing.
Oh, terrific. I mean, the best season, you mentioned it, after the year we won the scudetto. Honestly, unbelievable. If someone told me before the season started, hey, you're going to arrive second, I would have said you're really crazy. Arriving ahead of Milan, Juventus, and Inter for Lazio is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if Ross County win the Scottish League. You know, it's
I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad.
so you know it's really hard. I mean, it's unbelievable. You mentioned Sarri, second year with us. Lazio played really good football. I would say that after Napoli, Lazio was the team playing better last season. You mentioned it, the European competition. We have to divide last season in two: the Serie A performance and the European performance. Unfortunately, Lazio in Europe has been playing terrible, and this is because I believe the team doesn't perform in Europe League. They don't really care about the the Europe League competition, and we've been defeated 5-1 by Michelin. I mean, this team, it's a good team, but nothing compared to Lazio. So, you know, if you're not focused, you can lose against any single team in Europe. And, you know, the season has been ruined in a sense by our European performance, because we went out in the Europe League in a group where we could have done much better. I think we had the chance to win it. In the Conference League, we went out in the second round to play. And again, even there, we could have gone deep, and we didn't. So, big disappointment, but the Serie A was terrific. You mentioned beating Inter, beating Napoli, beating Roma twice. Not only, we had a terrific defense. 22 clean sheet is a personal record for us. 22. I mean, that was unbelievable. And that's the reason why we arrived second. So we are back in the Champions League. An example, in Europe League, last time we won an away game was like 5 years ago. In the Champions League, we drew 3 games without defeat. So it's funny how performance changes depending on the competition. Yeah. So terrific season, very happy. We didn't start well very much this season though.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on this season in a minute. And it's interesting you talk about that second place being built on a very strong defence, because what I've seen this season, not so much. Right, I'm going to bring you back to those European games, right? And I do understand that, especially such a prestigious and big club such as Lazio, that
thank you.
These other clubs can be seen, these other competitions can be seen as below them. However, look across the city to the Jose Mourinho, and they're winning things. They're winning these cups. And a team like Lazio with the quality they've got, surely winning the Europa League, winning the Conference League, isn't beyond them. Do you know what I mean? So it must be frustrating as a fan when you look. I mean, like you said it there, getting beat 5-1 from Michelin, Sturm Graz, 2 draws. And then you're going to Rotterdam, however strong Feyenoord are, but all you need is a draw. You've qualified, and you lose the game. It must have been a very frustrating.
A lot frustrating. Even because there is this atmosphere, even in the fans, that they don't care about the Europe League, which is crazy. I mean, I've been living abroad, and you can see that abroad is completely different. In England, every team that goes in the Europe League, they play to compete. They try to win it. For us, it's seen like annoying thing to do, right? Oh God, we have the Europe League this Thursday. Oh, and like this, you will never win. The other thing is, let's be honest, Lazio is a good club, but last time we won in Europe was 23 years ago. We won the Super Cup against Manchester United. So it's not that you say, hey, we are Real Madrid, we won 10 Champions League. Yeah. No, we didn't. So, you know, putting a Europe Cup in our palmarès wouldn't be that bad, honestly. So it's very frustrating, very annoying.
Yeah, yeah. And I always throw it out there that us fans like winning things. I mean, it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter if it's 1 trophy or 10 trophies. We like winning. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. Right. So this season, we'll come on to this season. And how I usually do this, Vittorio, is I have a look at the ins and outs, the transfers, because the transfers, as you well know, it sums up the squad and where the team are. So we'll look at the outs first, right? Romanian defender Stefan Radu retired after 16 years at the club, 427 games, 8 goals in that period. Luca Romero, the 18-year-old Mexican midfielder, saw out his contract and departed for Milan. Riza Durmasi, a Danish fullback, also saw his contract and departed. Italian international Francesco Acerbi, the 35-year-old centre-back, signed for Inter for £3.5 million after his loan spell last season. 29-year-old winner Emmanuel Ciccarelli made his loan to Regina permanent and signed for an undisclosed fee. Another loan was made permanent as Argentine midfielder Gonzalo Escalante joined Cadiz in Spain for €2.5 million. Nicolo Amini joined Potenza for an undisclosed fee. 22-year-old centre-back had only made 4 appearances with his club. Johnny Rodriguez, the 32-year-old Spanish winger who played against Celtic back in the Europa League, he signed for Cartagena again for an undisclosed fee. Johnny had been a regular earlier in his career, but most recently spelt loans away for the club. The massive departure, however, was a £40 million move of Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, who ended his own 8-year spell at the club and signed with Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal. The 28-year-old Serbian international played 341 matches and scored 69 goals in the period, a massive loss. So we'll talk about the departures. Milinkovic-Savic is an obvious one, but is there anybody there who's left that you've thought the club have missed?
The guys that left. No, well, for one reason or another, we knew that they were all leaving. Stefan Radu hardly played last year. He was one of our leaders, but in the last 2 years, he hardly saw the pitch. So it's not a surprise he retired. Francesco Acerbi, it's a very good central defender, but with Sarri, things didn't go very well. I would say he had a very good season with Inter last year. So you could see that Inter would try to sign him back. So that's what happened. Luca Romero, there were issue on his bonus to resign for Lazio. So he went to AC Milan, and at the moment, he did the wrong decision because he hadn't played a single second. All the other guys were pretty much out of the squad already. So Lazio just let go people that was not considered part of the team. Obviously, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic is another thought, but to be honest, last year Sergei started really well. From August till the break for the World Cup, he was terrific, amazing. But after the World Cup, he wasn't the same player. He played pretty average, I would say. And you can see that his mind was set. He wanted to leave the club. So we were lucky to find an Arabic club paying all that much for a player who had just 1 year of contract left.
Right. Okay, that's interesting, considering he'd been linked with a move away from the club for so long and for lots of money. And I suppose if he's only got 1 year left to get that money, but it's still at 28-year-old, he probably still had a massive sell-on value had he been in contract.
Yeah. And let's be honest, all fans miss him. We loved him, and we thought he was a great player and had huge impact in the team. But if a player wants to leave, you have to let him go. It's useless to keep him, when his mind is somewhere else. So we were lucky to find that good fee, and with pretty much the money we had from the sale of Milinkovic-Savic, we bought a completely different midfield. So it was good for both the player and the club. So
Interesting. So there's a whole plethora of there's a whole plethora of guys who have left the club on loan. Load of young guys. There's a 24-year-old Portuguese under-21 cap, Luis Maximiliano. He's joined Almeria on loan with an £8.5 million euro obligation. You had Matteo Cancellieri with one Italian cap. He's joined Empoli on loan.
Yes.
After, I mean, Cancellieri only this summer made his move to Lazio permanent after a loan of for 8 million. So you're due to make 4 million euros for doing nothing. Good move. So like there's a few other guys, like you say, young guys, older guys who just don't affect us. So we'll come to the incoming, right? So the aforementioned Cancellieri. And now we've got the 20-year-old Paraguayan under-20 international forward Diego Gonzalez was signed from Mexican side Celaya for €1 million. Argentine under-23 international forward Tati Castellanos was picked.
I think. But it's
picked up from New York City for around €15 million plus another 5 in add-ons. Free agent and Japanese international Diaki Kamada was signed up after his departure at Eintracht Frankfurt. Excellent signing. 27-year-old played just under 180 games for the German side. Danish forward Gustav Isaksen was signed from last season's Europa League opponents Midtjylland for €12 million. He came from last season with a record of 22 goals in 44 games. And finally, Greek under-21 goalkeeper Christoph Mandas was signed from OFI for around €1 million. He also brought in Nicola Rovella and Luca Pellegrini from Juventus for a season loan with a €27 million obligation to purchase. Rovella is a 21-year-old Italian under-21 international midfielder, whilst Pellegrini is a 24-year-old left-back and has one cap for the senior side. 32-year-old keeper Luigi Seppi was picked up on loan from Salernitana. And finally, former Arsenal midfielder Matteo Guendouzi, the 24-year-old French internationalist, was signed on loan from Marseille late in the summer window, and it is believed that he has a €12 million obligation to buy next season. So, not a lot happening, but really, really interesting. The age demographic of the signings that Lazio have made, really interesting. So you've seen these guys so far. Who looks like a good signing? Who looks like somebody for the future? Who looks out of their depth?
Well, to be honest, we didn't see that many.
Right.
It's a little bit of time to put trust in the new signing. At the moment of the new signing, Kamada is the only one who played more than 300 minutes, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So this tells you a lot. Tati Castellanos, that you mentioned, 50 million plus 5 of bonus, played around 35 minutes so far.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is nothing.
No.
5 games, 5 league games, and a Champions League game, 35 minutes. So Guendouzi started just last Saturday for the first time in the starting 11 and was subbed in the second half. Rovella never started a game. Well, Sepe is the second goalkeeper, so he will have same discussion for Mandas, very young goalkeeper, very talented, they say, etc. So all this new signing pretty much didn't play a lot. Isaksen started for the first time on Saturday, so you need time. A couple of things very important. One, the age. Except from Kamada, we signed, well, obviously Sepe and who's on the bench, etc. We signed only player under 24, which is very important for 2 reasons. One, Lazio had a very old team. Ciro Immobile is 34. Luis Alberto is 31. Felipe Anderson is 30. Cataldi is getting older. Romagnoli is reaching 30. So we had a very old team, especially compared to Premier League, etc. So one of the things we needed to do is to rejuvenate the club, the team. and sign young players. Obviously, you're playing the Champions League, so you cannot sign youngster with no talent. You have to sign youngster who were ready, nearly ready to play at that level, and that wasn't easy. But you know, Guendouzi, it's a player that it's ready to play Champions. You already played Champions, so it's not a surprise. So that's a very good sign from my point of view. Then the pitch has to confirm, because he played really well when he came in against Napoli. But for example, Saturday when he started, it wasn't a very good performance. But I rate Guendouzi a good signing. Castellanos, it's a question mark. He's 24. He was very good in the MLS, but you know, MLS is not really a competitive league, or at least not as competitive as the Serie A. But he looks promising. In the preseason games, he was good. So
right, interesting.
Isaacsen, again, he's 21. We saw him last year in Europe League. He looks very good, but obviously, as you were mentioning, it's not the same type of competition. Serie A, it's more difficult. So he'll need to learn more to be starting in the Serie A, I think. But again, he's 21. He's very young, especially for Serie A. So, you know, we did a mix of Kamada, who is ready and he's showing to be a very good player, and other players like Isaacsen and others that need time to develop, but are very young and talented. I think that's the most important thing. We signed a lot of talented players. Nicolò Ravella, who didn't start a single game, for me would be one of the best signing Lazio made. He's not playing now, but I guess in 2-3 years' time, he could be probably one of the best Italian central midfielders. So it's a sort of a mix. You had to compete this year, but at the same time, we were thinking about the future. We didn't sign 32 years old player, right, that can play this year and then it's gone. So obviously we had to find a mix, which is not easy. But I think overall the transfer market was very smart.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting, because, like you said, after a second place finish, it could be very easy for the club to go, well, we could go and get this guy, and give it a real good go and get it. But as you say, you've got to protect the club long term.
Yeah.
So
and to be honest, Lazio doesn't have that much money that you can say, you know, I'm gonna splash, you know,
right.
I'm gonna do it.
Right. Well, that's also something I would like to touch on later on, where Lazio are as a club. But right, so you've picked out the guys I was going to speak about. So aside from the new signings, who are the stars of the team? And again, I'm going to look for the big names. So Alessio Romagnoli, outstanding. Luis Alberto has been a fantastic player. Felipe Anderson has proved it. Pedro, I don't know what the latest is with Pedro. And of course, Ciro Immobile, who's class. And so obviously these guys, recognisable names, superstars, if not genuine world-class stars. Who else in the squad am I missing? Who's the young guys that we should all be looking out for? Who's the guys can damage Celtic?
Well, starting from the fact that we don't know who's going to play, it's still very in the future. So, you know, but you didn't mention Mattia Zaccagni. He's a very interesting player. He played the last game for our national team. Last year, I think he had 4 months that he was probably the best winger in the Serie A.
Right. Wow.
He scored 10 goals last year, which is very good for him, but in general, he didn't start very well this season, to be honest with you. Him and Felipe Anderson have been disappointing so far this season. But Zaccagni is a very interesting player. He has quality and speed, and so this makes him a very dangerous winger. Last year compared to 2 years before, he improved, especially he wasn't very dangerous. He created chances but wasn't very good finishing. Last year he improved this and scored 10 goals, provided assists, etc. So he can be very, very dangerous if he's on form. Unfortunately, so far he hasn't, but you know, still a week or so. So I hope he finds his form for the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Zaccagni could be very interesting, a very talented player. Vecino could be another interesting player. He's not very young. He's 31. He has experience though. He's a very experienced player. So in key matches, he could be very interesting. An example, against Napoli, he started, and this was a surprise because we didn't see that coming. So, you know, he has experience. He can play very well in big games. So he could be another player that you should be watching.
Perfect. Right, okay, so let's have a look at this season. I don't want to depress you now. We're going to start looking at this season. This is more for my listeners' benefit here, but due to your second place finish, you will take your place in the Supercoppa Italiana, which now consists of first and second place in the Serie A, plus the winners and runners-up of the Coppa Italia. So this season, Inter will play Lazio and Napoli will play Fiorentina, with all games occurring like last season in Saudi Arabia on the 4th till the 8th of January. It's all about that money.
Absolutely.
And the Coppa Italia. Sorry, crack on.
This made a huge difference for us. Because, you know, our goal last year was to finish in the top 4. Then when we were fighting for the second position, we thought, you know, arriving second means that you qualify for the Supercoppa Italiana, which means that you could gain something like 20 million euros more.
Really?
So, you know, it's a huge difference.
Oh.
I mean,
wow.
Lazio has...
I was going to come back and ask your opinion on that.
Lazio, just for qualifying for this competition, gets 5-6 million euros. If we win against Inter, you get the final. It's 11-20 million euros. So, you know, it's massive for us. So arriving second was a huge boost for this. You're getting not only the Champions League money, but this competition that, as you mentioned, we're playing in South Arabia because, you know, it's all about money. But, I mean, at least Lazio gets the money. So it's very important for us.
Vittorio, you've blown me away. Wow. Geez, that's some amount of money, man. Wow.
Well, one of the positive things about Serie A is that in that area, South Arabia, etc., is still quite popular.
Yeah.
We played the Supercoppa Italiana a lot of times there, and you can see the stadium was... So this year would be the first time that 4 teams qualify. In the past, it was the winner of the Coppa Italia, the winner of the scudetto. That's it. But every time we played there, the stadium was packed, a lot of fans, etc. So you can see that in Saudi Arabia, Serie A is still very popular. We smashed this deal that is terrific for Serie A. So it was really good for us, especially.
I mean, morally, it stinks to the high heavens, but who am I to question that?
Yeah, well, that's another discussion, right?
So, in the Coppa Italia, Lazio will host Reggiana or Genoa in Rome in the round of 16 on the 5th of December. But league-wise, it's not been a great start. Opening day defeat to Lecce, 2 late goals reversing Immobile's opener. You then had a 1-0 defeat to Genoa in Rome, and I suppose alarm bells were ringing. A great 2-1 victory over champions Napoli and Naples gave hope that the season was ready to kick on, but then you had a 3-1 defeat in Turin to Juventus, followed by the weekend's dismal 1-1 draw with Monza again in Rome. So 5 games in, 1 win, 1 draw, 3 defeats, 5 goals scored, 8 conceded, -3 GD, 4 points on board, 1 point off Roma and Monza in 13th and 14th, and equal with Genoa in 16th. Now, if you want to kind of we'll chat about the games, right? So obviously, I would presume. So admittedly, I've only seen the games in highlights, and I've looked at the stats. But the Lecce game looks like a game that was harder to lose, and you managed it.
So it's funny because we lost twice against Lecce in the same way. Because after the World Cup, the season restarted in January, February, I don't remember. First game of the season was Lecce Lazio, and it was the same game like this August. Lazio started really well, scored, and then in the second half we were knackered. We couldn't move anymore, and Lecce scored twice and won the game. This time was pretty much the same. 30 minutes, very good from our team. We scored, we had a chance, etc. Second half, we started well. Felipe Anderson missed a huge chance. The goalkeeper made an unbelievable save on Ciro Immobile, and then we disappeared. Lecce had 2 chances and scored, and that was it.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Like I said earlier on, you spoke about that second place finish coming on the back of such a strong defence. You had the other clean sheets, whereas we're going to talk about it in the next couple of games. Defensively, you look all over the place. Like,
so I was checking this morning. We conceded 8 goals in Serie A so far, and this is the 5th game of the season of the Serie A. Last year we conceded the 8th goal at the 12th game.
Wow, some difference.
And in that game we lost incredibly at home 3-1 against Salernitana. So our defense was completed, and the funny thing is, it's the same players. We didn't change nothing in defense. Our goalkeeper is still that. Our 4-man defense are still those 4 players.
And it looks all over the place.
Absolutely.
Desperate lunges, and some of the goals. So we're talking about the Lecce game. I mean, the Genoa game is, before you conceded, you could have been 2-3 goals down in the Genoa game. I mean, again, right now, in general, for the games I've watched, you look like an unlucky team because you've hit the bar, you've hit the post. The goalkeepers have been having good games, but defensively look wildly.
Yeah, we've been unlucky even there because we conceded 2 goals by deflection, both against Napoli and again Atletico Madrid. We were very unlucky. But, Monza scored on Saturday, and the player, Gagliardini, who scored, was in our box and was unmarked.
Yeah.
That cannot happen.
Scandalous.
Lecce second goal, the ball was in our box for 2 minutes and no one kicked it out. Same thing against Juventus, the second goal. I mean, this is Serie A. You cannot afford these mistakes. You cannot. So, we are not playing very well. And yes, a little bit of a luck, but if you make these mistakes, then, you're not going to win, especially against big team. If you make one mistake, they're going to punish you.
Yeah. I mean, the Napoli game, I suppose the Napoli game would have been the game that you thought, right, that's it, it's working. I mean, technically, you only had 2 shots on target in that game and you won 2-1. However, you've got 2 goals chalked off just by the narrowest of margins. I mean, from everything I looked at that game, under a lot of pressure to come out and get that win, he must have kicked on. But the Monza game must worry you, because see the Atletico Madrid game, I would say you guys were the better team.
Yeah.
From what I watched, and I suppose to get a draw, especially in that manner, you're happy enough. But that was a great chance at 3 points.
Yeah. So to be honest, if I want to see the positive side, we played well against Napoli. We played better against Juventus. We didn't deserve to lose against Juventus. We created more chances. We had more ball possession, etc. We conceded 3 stupid goals. But in football, you win if you score more goals than their opponent, not if you play better. Even against Genoa, in the second half, Genoa didn't create absolutely nothing. We dominated that match, but we didn't score. You can say the same pretty much against Monza. Yes, we made a couple of mistakes and our goalkeeper made a couple of very good saves. But we hit the post. We had 2 great chances. We scored once. We missed another couple. It could be easy. It could have easily finished 3-1 for us on Saturday. We're missing chances. We are conceding too much easy goals. And that's football. I mean, if the other scores and you don't, you're not going to win a lot of matches, right?
Of course, that's it. You've just summed it up. Right. Okay, so we're going to look into our wee crystal ball, and we're going to have a wee chat about next week's game. But see, before we do that, can we have just a wee chat about Lazio and just where Lazio are in terms of stature, world football just now? You spoke that you guys don't have a lot of money. What's noticeable straight away is no sponsor on the jersey. Right, for us football fans, that's brilliant. But I know for the club would like a sponsor. Where are Lazio just now? I mean, how are they being run? Are they a sleeping giant, or are they just a club who are struggling with the English Premiership being as strong as they are?
Well, I think Lazio doesn't fit in none of them. Lazio owner is, how can I say? It's a rich Rome guy. He's not that rich, right, but he has been very careful. I mean, you Scottish should be very expert on excuse me for the joke. But it's exactly what we did. So he signed Lazio, and we were really, really struggling. We were close to financial crack. So he saved us, and saving us, cutting costs. He pretty much cut everything. So we had a very low budget, not only for the players, even for the club. I mean, our structure is very thin. We have a sport director, a manager, and that's it. You know, we don't have other things like that. So he's very careful. This is the positive and negative, because obviously, if you want to make money, you have to spend a little money, especially our marketing team. I think it's awful, dreadful. If you go to the Lazio website, it's all in Italian. I mean, 2023, a giant club, all in Italian. I mean, you must be kidding me. And that's it, you know. Sponsorship. They're all international brands. Why should I sign for a club who hasn't got an English version of the website? Why do I have to sign?
Excellent point.
You know,
excellent point.
Why do I have to sign for a club who doesn't care of Lazio fan abroad? Because living abroad, I met so many Lazio fans who doesn't speak Italian. They're Swedish, they are Mexican, they're American. Why do they have to learn Italian? If they want to follow Inter, the Inter has content in English, Spanish, Japanese, whatever they want. We don't. So, you know, it's tough for Emirates, Samsung, or whatever you want to sponsor a club who only thinks about Rome.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Right. Another question I've got, right? I've got about the support, and I'm not going to go down the kind of usual route. I just want to know, right? So the stadium holds 70,000. Is that right? 70,000, just over 70,000?
Yeah, maybe 80.
And you guys generally, you sit, apart from the derby, you generally sit about 40,000, 45,000 in the stadium. Is that an Italian thing? Because I remember when Juventus built the stadium they're in just now, it was like 45,000 for this massive club Juventus, but it was 45,000 when considering Celtic and Rangers are filling 55 and 60. Is that an Italian culture thing? And then that leads me on. How many tickets do you believe Celtic will get this time when we visit?
I have no idea.
No clue.
Well, usually we give to the opponent team a big chunk of the sector. So it should be 2K, maybe. I don't know. It depends. I think Celtic should make the request and Lazio should say, okay, this is fine or not. I think it works like that.
I mean, last time Celtic had 9,000.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a good one.
I guess so. But it was Europe League, so you know.
Exactly. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
For example, against Atletico Madrid, we were close to 50. So, right. You know, but there were a lot of Atletico Madrid fans, to be honest.
How many fans do you think? I mean, the allocation, I think the 5% means that there's 3,000, and I was wondering how many Atletico fans would have been there.
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like? Was it good?
Very good, very good. Well, you know, it was back to the Champions League. So this year, compared to the past, finally Lazio made this sort of season tickets for the Champions League group.
Right.
So the 3 home games, you could buy a ticket for all 3. You know, you got a discount, etc. And we sold 22,000 of them, something like that. So, you know, another 20,000 bought the tickets. So we were around 46, 48, something like that. So the atmosphere was good, much better compared to the Europe League. Usually in Europe League, we were 10,000. If we were lucky, 20. So for me, it was very disappointing. I told you before, for me, European competition, it's important. Obviously, Champions League is more important, but even the Europe League is good. But Lazio fan doesn't think like I do. So yeah, the stadium was pretty much empty. We played a lot of games at home with the stadium empty. Talking about Juventus, I think they had a different mindset. They wanted a small stadium to increase the price of the tickets.
Yeah. Oh, well, there comes the offset of being that international club.
So for give you an example, the first 2 years of the new Juventus stadium, it was sold out every single game. And they start to rising the prices. Obviously, in the past 3 years, things didn't go very well, and you could see that the stadium wasn't full anymore.
Right.
But you know that's the. For example, Lazio have been thinking about building our own stadium because the Stadio Olimpico is not ours. There is the Stadio Flaminio that is in the center of Rome. Very nice. We played there in the 70s, etc. So we are very attached to that stadium, but it's very small. So the plan was to do 45k for that stadium, but very small, very posh, I would say. So
is that still the plan?
I wish.
Right. So there's nothing.
Unfortunately, there's nothing, and that's another point. Again, going back to the club mentality. First thing of every single club is to have your own stadium. You make a lot of money out of that. Obviously, you have to build a stadium, so it's money to spend. But then in the future, you're going to get a lot of money. Yeah. We are not thinking that way, unfortunately.
It's funny you say that, Vittorio. I'm gonna take you back to the 90s, and when Juventus came and played Rangers in the Champions League, and I remember that Juventus were making a big deal about not owning their stadium. And they were kind of laughing at Partick Thistle. You guys have got this cost. Our council pays for that, and we've got all this money. And it's funny how it's all came back round circle.
Well, again, my thoughts on this is obviously it depends. I mean, if you're a big club like Juventus, you have to have your own stadium. If you're a small club, then having a stadium means you're gonna have a lot of bills.
Cost.
And I'm not sure because. If you build the stadium in the center of the town, you're going to use it 7 days a week. If you have Udinese, that is a small club, and owns the stadium, how many fans do they have? And how many will go during the week? Not that much, So I think big clubs will have a huge impact on the stadium, on a own stadium. Small club, I don't think.
Yeah. But and I suppose with the footfall in Rome, and the amount of football fans from around the world who come to Rome because you've got these two fantastically famous clubs. If you had your own stadium, you would have that tour, the shop, the museum. They would be full practically every day.
And one thing, the Stadio Olimpico is awful. You don't see the game. You are used to play at home at your stadium, which is terrific. I loved it. But the Stadio Olimpico is terrible. It's a very old style football. We have it's done even for the athletics. So every May or June there is the Golden Gala.
Oh, do they still use it for the Olympics?
Of course they are.
Right, okay.
Because it's of the Olympic Italian Federation. It's not of the football team. So they use it even for other activities.
Brilliant.
So the ground is far away from the stands, and you're not able to watch really well the match.
Right. Okay. So we'll get into the game, and like I say, we're going to use a crystal ball here. So Don't be quoting us. So this season, Sarri again prefers that attack-minded 4-3-3. In your opinion, who's likely to start? What do you think the approach will be, especially if playing at Celtic Park, but Lazio that are obviously the more high-profile team? Are you expecting a quick approach, an attacking approach, or a more counter-attack minded?
Well, it's not easy to say because as we were mentioning before, especially in away games, Lazio in Europe hasn't played that well. So which Lazio will we see in Glasgow? That's the biggest question mark. We will see the team that have played in the Champions League away games or the one we saw in the Europe League games. That's a big difference. Let's not forget that we are playing AC Milan on Saturday before that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're going to have some rotation to do. Is Sarri going to play the starters on Saturday or on Tuesday against Celtic? That's another question mark. So
that is really interesting. That is, I mean, it's a we're playing Motherwell, so it's a bit of a difference.
yeah. Our fixture has been terrible. The first 10 games of the season will be very, very tough for us. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. The other thing is you play a very offensive mind football. So we can play like we did at Napoli. Wait a little bit for you to attack and then counter-attack and use the space you will provide us. And with Brendan Rodgers, you played a very offensive mind football. So, that could be...
I would counter that with the game against Feyenoord. I mean, Feyenoord, we made every problem that happened against us was our own dealings. But we played a wee bit more. We pressed high, but we still try to keep it compact in a way that Brendan Rodgers doesn't usually. However, as you say, at home is a different game altogether. So I fully expect Celtic to kind of try and put the defence under pressure as they have been this season. Do you know what I mean? We've kind of got to look at that.
I think Lazio will come there to try to keep the ball, move the ball around and have ball possession and, try to find your weak spot and try to attack there.
Yeah, of course.
But, be careful, move the ball more possible, have ball possession, high ball possession, and then find the right spot to try and score. I think that will be the match. Now, everything depends on who's going to play, because obviously with Luis Alberto, we are a very dangerous team. Without him, we have to see how we play. There are some question marks because we have a couple of players that at the moment are not 100% fit. So, I don't know if they're going to be ready. We play Wednesday in 2 days' time. So we don't know if they're going to be playing this week against Milan, or maybe they're going to be rested to play against Celtic. Who knows? So again, question marks, a lot of question marks.
Up in the air. Yeah. Right. So now I caught your podcast when I first made contact with yourself. I've sat down. I've watched all your podcasts since.
Oh, thank you very much.
And by the way, I would recommend it, but you can sell it better later yourself. But so it's been really interesting watching. The question I've got to you, considering when the draw was made and I heard your opinions. Now, your opinion when I first saw you was we could win this group. Now, you've come away with, in my opinion, a very impressive performance against Madrid, but a 1-1 draw. Are you still confident of that top in the group, or is qualification the aim?
Well, I wasn't never confident. I said we had a chance. So, it's a little bit different. To be honest, as you mentioned, we played better than Atletico Madrid. So we were unlucky because, again, deflection was the key for the goal. We had so many chances, but we scored the last second with our goalkeeper. So, I was happy because we got a point, but Atletico Madrid is a strange team this year. I mean, we played better than Atletico Madrid, and then they won the derby against Real Madrid. So, it's going to be difficult. I think Atletico Madrid is the favorite to finish top, but obviously, especially if we get points against Celtic away, then we can finish second. I think it's at the moment is in the hands of Atletico Madrid. If they drop points and we win, everything can change. But considering that we will play away the last game against them, I think they are the favorite now. But anything can happen, especially if we said Lazio didn't start the season very well. But if we can find a form, then, I think the away game against Celtic is going to be very difficult. Then we're going to play against Feyenoord. We lost against there last year. So I guess we won't be surprised like we did last year. I think we want a little bit of revenge. So I'm confident that, or at least I hope that against Feyenoord we're going to win and we're going to play much better. So, we have a chance.
Yeah, it's a very interesting group. Celtic were kind of lucky that Jimenez was missing versus us, and I believe he's missing the game against Madrid, but he's back against you guys. And I watched Feyenoord versus Ajax yesterday, and Feyenoord were excellent. I don't get me wrong, Ajax were terrible, but Feyenoord were very good. And then I watched Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid were really good. So I was like, oh. Yeah. So we need to take something from the game next week. Ultimately, a win puts us back in, because we're looking at third place. But the game next week's huge, really.
Yeah, well, if you're considering third place, Feyenoord is playing against Atletico Madrid. It's going to be tough. Then they're playing against us. So, there's the risk to lose both games. So, I would say that it's a difficult group because every team has the chance to qualify. I mean, even Celtic is not a bad team, and they have the chance, especially because, we all know that playing at home against you, it's very complicated. Playing at Glasgow, the atmosphere, it's amazing. So, and you play very different type of football, more focused, more convinced. So it's not going to be easy obviously, Atletico Madrid is a bigger team. They have very good players, but still, it's not a given. They'll have to fight to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I hope you're right.
And they're not playing really well. They beat Atletico Madrid, but in the league, they're not playing very well.
No. I saw that myself. Yeah. Right. So, away from Europe now, what is your hopes for this season for Lazio?
Well, probably 1 week ago, I would told you finishing the top 4. Now the things are getting a little bit complicated. We're dropping points every week. So I will still hope to finish top 4, but it's getting harder and harder. But yeah, that should be our target, our goal. And maybe pass the group stage of the Champions League.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Vittorio, this has been excellent. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking your time after your dinner to come and speak to me. Before we go, tell the people where they can follow you on social media, and tell us about your podcast.
Well, yes, as I was mentioning before, Lazio doesn't care about non-Italian Lazio fans. So we try to do it ourselves. So I started with a Scottish journalist 7 years ago, Lazio Lounge, that it's a podcast in English about Lazio. So we do it every week after Lazio game. So now in Europe, we do it twice. And you can find us wherever you listen to our podcast. We have a YouTube channel, and maybe this could be useful even for you, because I did a video last week, how to get tickets to Lazio game. So when you're going away, if you're planning to come to Rome to watch the game, you can watch that video and understand where you have to buy tickets and what you need to bring. ID card, remember it, because otherwise you don't get in.
What a guy. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And you find Lazio Lounge, as you say, and you've got on Twitter as well. But we'll finish there. Vittorio, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful talking to you. You've given me exactly what I was looking for. I'm not going to wish you good luck for next week, but I hope you have a happy, successful season, my friend.
Thank you very much. You too.